Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode, I think it is 68 of the True North Eager Beaver interview project, also known as episode number, and I'm going to have to go and take a little check here in the show notes, 593?
94. I forgot to change it from yesterday.
594, indeed, of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Yes, indeed, kids and cubs. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, A. And with me is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Today, recording day is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. It's a great day here at the Beaver Lodge, but it is warmed up because yesterday and the day before were a little cold, and we are in March, so unspring-like weather, even though we're not officially in spring yet, but March did come in like a lion. So
like a lion, yeah.
It will go out like a lamb, as the
With
saying
any
goes.
luck.
With any luck,
With any
yes.
luck.
A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.com. I have to remember they changed their name.
I'll have to change that at some point.
Yeah, we'll have to redo the dubbing at the opening. Mr. Grizzly, before we go any further, how is your mental health today, sir?
I'm still struggling. I'm still trying to get through. I wanted to do an ASMR last night. I did not have the emotional energy, unfortunately. I couldn't do it. I'm probably going to record something today because I feel bad because I've been either, absent lately. And I know that there are folks who do, I don't know if I say count on it or rely on it, but they do appreciate it.
Mhm.
So for the folks that I've if you feel you've been abandoned, you haven't. I've just really been struggling lately. So I will record something and put something up at some point today. And I apologize for my absence.
Yep. I understand I've listened to it a few times, and there's a lot of value in what you do. So I can understand how, I won't say, like I say, rely on it, but that there were people that would appreciate it and miss it.
Yes.
But I'm sure people will also, understand, because as we say on the show, self-care first.
Mhm.
Above anything. And when it comes to feeling guilty for taking time for self-care, even though sometimes that feeling can't be avoided, it's a useless emotion.
Agreed. But Irish Catholic raised on guilt, so
Yeah,
it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to cast that away. I've been doing my darndest for the last 30 years to cast away the pangs of guilt, but sometimes it's not so easy.
The factory set programming sometimes kicks in.
Yes. Well, and especially when you're at a low point too, right? Because you don't have the energy to push back. And that's sometimes when cognitive behavioral therapy can help.
Yeah.
But I'm not there yet. That's all. I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Now, my beaver sweetie is that the person he is seeing is teaching him to get into his body when he has a moment like that, to refocus into his body, either like squeezing his hands, or even like
Yes.
if it's cold outside, like going outside like for like 10 minutes and letting the cold hit you and like feeling that, stuff like that. But there are some CBT tricks,
Well,
C-
and the
cognitive behavioral therapy.
clenching the fists and that is something I was taught a number of years ago, and it's good. What you need is like a checklist when you're in the state that I'm in to go through the checklist, and so that way you can have something to refer to as a a textbook, if you will, so that you
Right,
can repair and self heal.
right,
Because when you're that low, remembering to put clothes on some days is a challenge,
yeah, or
and
just
that's not a
wanting
joke.
to, or just wanting to, if you remember.
Yes. Well, that's the other thing too. Yeah, so I'm just pouring a coffee here.
Out
I
of
made
the
a
word of
fresh pot, and I decided to bring the whole carafe in, so that way, during our conversation today, I don't. Oh, interesting how the light hits the top of it, and it sort of gets a nice green shade, and
oh
you can
yes,
almost.
I
Yeah,
can see that. Yeah,
or I could just
nice,
do that.
nice. All right, kids and cubs, we have a treat for you today. Um, as you know, recently there was a show on CBC Radio called Cross Canada Checkup, which, I should say recently, it still exists, but there was a specific episode of the show that was a collaboration with NPR. It got distributed versus through C-SPAN in the United States and 170 NPR network stations, and Canada here, coast to coast to coast, through CBC and all of its means, podcasting, online, radio, even through YouTube. And the show caused a lot of national consternation because it seemed to be accepting the premise that discussion of the 51st state, and it was sort of presented and framed that way, um, should be mused aloud about and entertained, and rather than just like, no, this is not happening. If we're going to have a phone in show about this, let's talk about how we all hate this, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and as we said on the show, they tried to reframe it based on the comments that they got, but the reframing kinda seemed to have a bit of a bitter tinge to it.
Mhm.
A lot of blaming the listeners or the audience for having misunderstood the intentions, rather than blaming oneself for having misexplained, or not properly or fully have explained or clearly explained their intentions when
Right.
doing the show. Um and lots of justification of the need for this show for some reason during that time. Um, I, and I think Mr. Grizzly as well, found this episode a little surprising because,
Mhm. Well, there was no pushback. There was no support. I just it was. I was disappointed in Ian Hanomansing. I really was.
yeah,
I expected him to do his job a little bit better than he did.
yep. In terms, and that's in terms of the actual episode. In terms of the
Correct.
premise and the framing,
Yes.
there was a lot of why is the CBC, of all the networks with a mandate like the CBC has, offering us this type of programming?
Mhm. Just it's sensationalistic, and I think they were just looking for clicks.
Yeah,
That's my personal opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I just yeah.
yeah, it seemed like it. Well, our guest today had some thoughts about this episode, this adventure, and was not afraid to let them be known in public, and wrote an open letter to the ombudsman of the CBC explaining her views.
Mhm.
And I read it and I thought it was sheer brilliance. So I reached out to this person and asked them if they would like to come on the show. Um, they seem to be a little bewildered. It's like, I'm not sure I'll have anything much to say. And it's like, trust me, I read what you had to say. You definitely have things to say. So, our guest is someone who is Newfoundland based. So, good people. I mean, It just goes. It just goes.
Salt of the earth. Bye.
Salt of the earth. Newfoundland-based award-winning newspaper journalist and author, self-described old-school journalist, and based on some commentary I saw during the Habs versus Washington Capitals game last night, very much a Habs fan. So
yes,
kits and cups.
we had a discussion about that because she was like, "You're not a Senators fan, are you?" I'm like, yeah, right.
Please put your paws up and give a big round of applause for old school journalist and author Rosalyn Roy. Welcome to the Beaver Lodge.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's a
Ah,
pleasure.
good morning. Oh, I'm so glad to see you. Like we do for everyone, we ask, how's your mental health doing today?
Good. I've got my coffee. The sun is trying, I guess. So I have a dog, so I do a lot of walking for my mental health, and he's just waiting for me to finish this, and then we'll go do our morning stroll.
Same thing. I have a 85-pound Dogo Argentino who's asleep on the couch right now who will be desperate to go out shortly. Walking the dog does help because
Yes.
no matter how dark things are, you still have to get up and take care of her.
Yeah.
Like you have to take her out, and that helps.
Yeah. When we had the hurricane, I still had to take him out.
Ooh.
It's like, well, okay, I'll just get blown over out to sea, but as long as you get your
I just see like tying a lasso to like the lampposts. It's like, okay, walk. I've never been in a hurricane. That's why I'm glad to say I haven't had the experience, I guess, because I think it must be a
Don't
little.
recommend it. Don't recommend it.
Yes, it must be rather intense.
They're not fun.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that, as a child, when, it's just big wind, it's fun. No, it's not fun. It's quite frightening, actually.
Mm-hmm. Rosalyn, one of the reasons we reached out is because we have an immense respect for journalism and journalists. We do not, and we make it very clear, we do not consider ourselves journalists. But we curate news, we comment on news, we analyze news. If we have an interview, I guess technically we're making some news, but I mean, it's not. We're not journalists. We just find interesting people, and we want to chat with them and figure out what makes them tick. But you, however, are a journalist, a real one. And it matters. It matters these days. And an old school one who has a code.
Mm-hmm.
When they do their journalism, that seems to have slipped of late. I was wondering, when you heard about this particular programming, because there's a difference between not liking it and then complaining online or complaining to your friends and going to the stage where you're going to write an open letter that everybody is going to see. So what was it about you, not only as a citizen, but as a journalist, that made you go, I don't think this is right?
It was just, well, first, yes, the framing was wrong, but that's just a lot of marketing to me. Like, he's like, oh, people misunderstood. To me, they didn't misunderstand anything. You just tried to, move the goalposts after the fact, right?
Right.
So when I was looking at it, and I thought, well, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I did. So I went through and I was looking at how they were framing it, and I was thinking, the very premise of it does not meet journalistic standards, because you are both siding an issue that should not be both. Like, I think Paul said it was sensationalist and it was clickbait and it was taking advantage of a big American audience who are engaged in this. But that is not what the CBC is for. So I thought it was just, it didn't meet journalistic standards for me. So once I realized that, I was like, this is CBC. They have the highest in the country. They're supposed to be the highest in the country. Someone has to hold their feet to the fire, because clearly someone's not doing it on their end. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go on a little rant. I think I'm prone to do that anyway on my social media. I just, it's my own opinions. I don't pretend to be anything other than me. But when it didn't hit the journalistic standards for me, I was like, yeah, I'm going to speak out, because I'm one of those people who's like, well, if you're not going to do it, how can you expect anyone else to do that?
Well, and that's the importance of it. It's that you're a private citizen who works in the same field and are calling them out for not doing their job. And that needs to be done. It needs to happen. We get frustrated all the time when we see a press conference with a specific politician, who I won't name names, but I think you'll know who I mean when I say he will lie to their faces and nobody calls him out for it.
Yeah. I think there's a perception that journalism is presenting both sides of an issue, and that's not what journalism is about. You can and should present multiple sides of an issue, but you have to look at the context of it. Like, I can talk to a proctologist about plumbing, and I can talk to a doctor about plumbing who's got a problem with the sink. One of them is going to have more weight than the other.
Different kind of plumbing.
Yeah, like really. So journalism is not just both sidesing an issue. There's a quote I liked from a college professor, and I wish to God I could give you his name or even who posted it, but it's like, if it's one guy tells you it's raining outside and another guy says, no, it's sunny, your job is not to quote both of them in the paper. You have to stick your head out the window and have a look and see what the weather is like. That is journalism. And just to present both sides of an issue, especially people like, the doctor who is not a plumber, this is not anything more informative than like an internet message board or Blue Sky or just people going off about things. You know what I mean? There has to be, when you're presenting both sides or multiple sides, there has to be some legitimate basis for that. Kevin O'Leary is not that basis, right? This woman down in the States who was talking about, because I did listen to pieces of it, I couldn't do the whole thing, but this woman down in the States who was talking about coming up and liberating Canada, she has no informative value. She does not know what way the wind blows in Canada. Why is she on this show? There are so many good political scientists in this country. Have one of them on there. Or a historian who talks about, World War II and parallels, or even a politician that actually got voted into office that is dealing with this very real threat of annexation. Have them there. So otherwise it just comes across as sensationalistic. It doesn't contextualize properly. And it wasn't fact-checked properly either, because O'Leary made some comments that were just, and he was not called out on it. So this is where it just completely missed all these standards for me. And this is why I just, even before the show went off, it missed. When the guests were announced, it's like, well, you're talking to Americans about annexing Canada, about us becoming the 51st state, which of course is a criminal act. If I threaten to shoot you in the face, are we going to sit down and do a podcast about it? No, you're going to call the cops. It's illegal.
Let's discuss your intentions and your motivations in shooting me in the face. I'm sure everybody would like to know that, and I'm sure it has equal weight to the pain of the person whose face just got shot in.
So this is where I was coming from.
Rosalyn, do you happen to have your open letter in front of you?
It's on my phone. I just typed it out. Like, it took me 20 tries to write this thing.
I post rants too. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but I actually wrote it down with a piece of paper and a pen, and I don't have the original paper because once I typed it, I just tossed it. But yeah, it's on my Blue Sky.
If you have it handy, I wouldn't mind you reading it. Normally we read it, but you're here and it's your voice and it's your words. So
yeah. I never got a response from the ombudsman, by the way. I never accept an acknowledgement, right?
Ah, okay.
Let's see if I can find it. Okay, yeah, okay. So you want me to start now?
Absolutely, please.
Okay. As an award-winning Canadian journalist, I'm writing to express my profound disappointment regarding the upcoming radio program hosted by Ian Hannamansing, which aims to discuss the idea of Canada becoming the USA's 51st state. The very real threat of annexation cannot be treated as a mere proposal worthy of debate. By framing it as such, CBC is lending credence to the idea that my spelling's just terrible, fundamentally threatens Canadian sovereignty and values. This approach is particularly alarming given the current political climate, where figures like Kevin O'Leary have already publicly come out in support of this dangerous notion. Furthermore, this programming violates CBC's mandate to reflect Canadian values. Our national broadcaster should be a bastion of Canadian identity, not a platform for ideas to undermine our nation's autonomy. The false equivalence created by presenting both sides of this issue echoes the problematic approach taken during the COVID-19 pandemic. God, I got to learn to spell better. We're giving equal weight to fringe opinions alongside scientific consensus led to public confusion and mistrust. Journalism's role is not just to present information, but to contextualize it responsibly, which was my big thing with this whole thing. When I covered Hurricane Fiona's impact on my community and province, I did not entertain baseless claims that our communities deserve to have the devastation wreaked upon them because we had built homes too close to the water. It's nonsensical and not couched in the reality of our provincial and community history, which has always been tied to the sea. I did not entertain stupid notions of building fishing shacks on ponds or further inland. There was no both sides to that argument. To do that would have been to levy unfounded, inflammatory criticism during already difficult times upon people who had serious physical, mental, and emotional distress. Similarly, CBC should not entertain notions that threaten the very fabric of our nation under the guise of fair discussion. This programming decision moves beyond responsible journalism and invites an Overton window that instead amplifies a right-wing threat to our sovereignty. It is not a proposal, it is a threat. It is not balanced reporting, it is the normalization of an extreme and dangerous idea. CBC must recognize its responsibility in shaping public discourse and refrain from providing a platform for ideas that fundamentally challenge Canada's right to exist as a sovereign nation. I urge CBC to reconsider this programming decision and to reaffirm its commitment to Canadian values and interests. Our national broadcaster must stand firm in its role as a guardian of Canadian identity, not as a conduit for ideas from those that seek to erode it. And that was the letter. And I thought, given my first few drafts, it was pretty. it was pretty toned down.
Oh, your initial draft might have been a little more sweary.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of.
See, kids, the value of first and second and third and fourth and 10th drafts.
20th, because I was counting. I was like, this is just too hard. Like I'll never get a response. You know, there's a way to frame things in your letters and get blocked and maybe, threatened with police force.
Want that.
Oh, it's her again.
Yeah, basically.
Yep, indeed. I liked this because succinctly, it made some really, really good points. And we talked about, contextualizing things properly earlier. And then, but the second concept that you talk about, like, for example, you didn't entertain baseless claims that your communities deserve the devastation because you built homes too close to the water, or one that people from my culture frequently got when I was growing up. Oh, yes, we had that tornado because you guys are too nice to the gays. That was God's punishment on you.
Oh,
that's why you got that tornado or that earthquake or that whatever disaster, that snowstorm, whatever. And some people run with that story.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, and give it credits and time, but you're like, as a journalist, you are making the statement there are things that are just so baselessly stupid that they do not deserve attention.
Well, I mean, if you're going to talk to Americans about Canadian sovereignty, why aren't you talking to Russians and asking them what they want? Because we shut down communism right off the bat, right? Because it's like we make decisions as journalists when we contextualize too, and you have to do it responsibly as a journalist. So otherwise everyone comes in. So like, let's go and talk to Russia, what they think about America annexing us. Like there's no foundation for it. There's no world in which we should be doing that as a journalist. Who cares? We don't even need Americans. I'm sorry, but they do not get a vote on Canadian sovereignty. Why are we pandering to this? The only conclusion I could draw was for, clickbait likes, reach, marketing, revenues, because I can tell you from small town newspaper experience, we sold out more with a bad headline than we ever did with a good one.
Yes, we've noted that. Unfortunately, in order for us to gain more viewers, we have to put a sensationalistic title up to bring more people in, and it never fails.
If they're going to expand into the NPR and C-SPAN and all that with this nonsense, because they were, what was it? It was over 100 NPR channels, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 170.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no, it was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
I guess, and it was an opportunity. And the thing that made me think is that, they did change it on the fly because the framing did change clearly from the initial announcement. But it's almost like they just tried to take all the material that they had prepared and try to fit it into the new frame. And it was just really, really awkward. One of our criticisms is there were, as you mentioned, the guests were not of the best quality in order to be informative if we were looking at sharing more information or having an actual serious discussion. I mean, where was Janice Stein, for example, right? Or somebody like that in this type of a discussion. So the quality of the guests, the intervention, but also this type of issue is emotional to begin with. Yeah. And when the callers were coming in, there was like no time to actually get into the meat of the subject. They would just like have a little thing and like want to move on, or even we had issues like there was a trans person who called who said like, I think I'm going to have to flee. And then Ian Hanamanson goes in. So that thing, about my Blue Sky post about this, it seems that, you had trouble with the fact that we were doing the show. Somebody just told you that they would have to flee because they fear for their lives. They didn't engage with that point at all.
Yeah, just glossed right over it.
Yeah. No. And this is why I said, like, if you were going to do this, you have got to talk. These are the kinds of people that need to have their voice heard. These are the ones that are going to be affected the most by this kind of thing. But instead, you're talking to Kevin O'Leary. Like,
he got more time.
Yeah, that's not responsible journalism to me. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to go out and ask the mayor what he thinks about annexing. I'm going to go talk to a political scientist if I'm doing this story for my paper, right?
Well, and Ian even said, I'm not going to challenge you on any of the things you've just said. He said that during the program. That's Kevin O'Leary. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I heard that.
That's not journalism.
Journalism. That's entertainment. Now you've crossed the line straight into entertainment.
Right. Yeah, I watched that and I'm like, wait a minute, what? I had to watch it twice because I'm like, I can't believe that just happened. This is the CBC. This is Ian Hanamanson. This is not how it's supposed to work. Somebody tells you something that you believe to be a falsehood or have no facts to back up what they just said. You are supposed to challenge them on that. Show us your work. Bring receipts. At a minimum.
Head out the window, right? See if it's raining.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it just seems to me that, if you're a journalist, where's the curiosity and where's the sense of following a story? This format was like every caller that comes in gets like a minute and a half, and then we're just going to like run through them. So somebody just said, I would have to flee. Or there was another person that came in and says, why are we not talking about this as a declaration of war?
Yeah.
As a journalist, that type of comment would make me stop and say, hey, you know what? Let's get into that for a couple of minutes.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I don't think a talk show was a good place to do this necessarily. Like, also, he framed it, and this goes back to the marketing thing about, people are talking about this. No, they're not. Like, I can only speak for my small town, but no one is sitting there going, maybe we should join. No, it's just a blanket. No, let's move on. Is this product Canadian? That's what we're talking about. I spoke to a neighbor yesterday. He's returning his American car. It's a GM car he just leased because it's American. Now he wants to go look at a Japanese car instead. So that's what they're talking about. They are not even entertaining this. They're not discussing. The only one talking about this stuff are people outside of the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Trump people that went down, and I don't know where she was thinking that we needed to be liberated, much the same way that the Russian soldiers thought the Ukraine needed to be liberated when they rolled in.
Scary thought.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my whole thing with that. I don't know what else I can tell you.
You know, bigger
We're not
picture on that
invested.
too. I don't know if you've noticed a lot of individuals with a large audience, celebrities, if you will, have started to get rid of their electric cars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sheryl Crow.
She was the first one to do it.
Yeah, I liked her even before that. I have some of her albums, but yeah.
Seen her in concert, amazing live. But yeah, she was the first one to do it, and a number of individuals have followed up by doing the same.
There was somebody that donated their Tesla to NPR.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
so what they're
which is
doing
kind of interesting.
They're going around and buying either Rivian trucks or Polestar, and I think more people are buying the Polestar because that's a Swedish car.
Oh, is it?
Yes, and it's kind of like a backhanded slap in the face, right?
Oh, okay.
Like, even Americans are trying to buy non-American products now.
Yeah, and not just them. I saw a couple of other countries too. But that's what people are discussing, not this 51st state.
Right. Right. There are people in Greenland
who are buying Canadian. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. The UK too, and Australia.
Yep. I've seen that too.
I bought popcorn that had an American label. I almost got disowned. We buy our oranges now. I think they came from, I want to say Spain, but it might have been Portugal or even, it's somewhere over there in Europe.
Morocco.
Yeah, Morocco. Like, we cannot have anything with American label on in this house. I care for my mother. She's 75 and she polices it. She polices me when I come back from the grocery store. So it's just not in the house anymore. That's what we can talk about. If you want to talk about how we're reacting to the annexation threat and the tariff threat.
He doesn't
all the ways big and small.
Understand. Trump doesn't seem to understand. He likes to think he's a very stable genius. He's not. And he is destroying, not only has he destroyed the world order, on Friday he destroyed the world order that has stood since 1945. 80 years of history, he wiped it out in one 5-minute meeting. Number one.
And it's not going to be, oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
It's okay. I was going to say, number two, he is destroying the economy with tariffs. And he doesn't seem to understand that tariffs harm consumers. He's like, no, they have to pay it. Like, no, the consumer pays it. This has been proven time and time and time again, but he is such a narcissist that he only believes what he wants to believe. It doesn't matter if you show him the truth. You can show him 1,000 spreadsheets that show them that he's wrong. He doesn't care. He's right because he's a total narcissist.
I would argue that he knows to some extent what he's doing, but he doesn't care because who is it? Is it Vance that has the company that buys up farmland and sells it to foreigners? So if he breaks the farmers, he can snap up that land for pennies on the dollar and sell it to foreigners. But one of them, and I think it's Vance, but don't quote me because I'd have to go look it up again. There's always an end game with these billionaires and stuff. So as for the tariff threat, I put it down that he doesn't actually care. He's speaking to his audience because you have to keep them hyped up, engaged, enraged. You have to have that force. He is very good. And this went to my point in my letter about the Overton window, right? Like, politicians are the best at that.
Yeah.
The best.
Oh, yes. Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, moving the window. Yeah. The other thing that you mentioned in your letter that I found very interesting is raising the responsibility of journalists to practice some care with the type of framing that they put on information when you're dealing in a context where people are having serious physical, mental, or emotional distress. And I was wondering if you can get into a little bit of that because I'm pretty sure there's some deontological code elements related to that as well.
Well, my small town was slammed by Hurricane Fiona and we lost 162 houses. One woman died, was swept out to sea, right? for whatever reason, and we'll never know, ran back into her house and the house collapsed and she got swept out to sea. People were traumatized. Like there were people that I knew that watched that happen. And years later, they still can't talk about it. I mean, people deal with trauma differently. So some will talk to you as a journalist and some will not. But her partner was close to a year before he would talk to us. And then my editor shut it down. He was like, we're not offering anything informative or new, and I don't want to re-traumatize this person, right? So that's responsible journalism to me. But when you have CBC News cameras here, and to be fair, I'm picking on CBC, but it was global. It was American News Network. It was a lot of freelancers out here taking pictures of homes that got destroyed, and then it would go up on social media, or it would be in, film video footage. There was some guy, drives me crazy. I see the ad all the time if you're watching Flex. This is the first time people felt scared. It's like, no, that's not the first time. And it's theater. It devolves into theater. And all it does is piss off people who've been through this stuff and re-injure them well after the fact. My mother still cannot watch some of these newscasts. We didn't lose our home. We lost some shingles and windows. I mean, I almost got brained by a piece of siding that came off the neighbor's house. But like, we were really, really, really lucky. And there's still parts of it that we find staggering to see if you drive past now, and all these homes are gone, all these childhood homes that were there when she was growing up. And they were taken down and thrown away because of this hurricane. So yeah, when you're here and you're a journalist, like, there were people that would talk to us and others that wouldn't. And then a year later, they came and talked to us again. And I wrote a book because they were like, well, you're not going to share my story. So it's like, yes, I will. So I wrote a book about it. But like, we did not push people that had been through absolute hellfire. And you could see the big news networks, would not always necessarily respect that boundary. A couple of them got themselves a reputation in this town. You'd see them on the evening news if I gave you their names, but like, they got themselves a reputation in this town, and it is not a good one. So it goes to their integrity, and by extension to their network's integrity, because they cross that line with, well, I need the story. Yeah, but get it from
that story.
I want to talk to you.
Really?
Not the one that's over in the corner, crying. Kind of thing. So that's why I said that. I saw there are people that still won't talk about that hurricane. Still won't do it.
We had that situation last year when Chief Kathy Merrick passed away on the steps of the legislature.
Okay.
And people were,
Edmonton, yeah.
or the courthouse or the legislature went on. People
Oh,
were
it was
coming in to try.
Winnipeg, correct?
Winnipeg, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
And they were trying to get pictures and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, get the picture of the crowd going like this, but don't try to get the picture of the person as they died and print that.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's life is better or more informed for seeing that visual.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we reported on car accidents and stuff, we never showed the accident. We showed the lineup of cars waiting to get by. I mean, there has to be some basic decency in journalism. Otherwise, again, it's there's no line. You have to have a line. Or at least we did. That's how I was trained as a small town newspaper journalist. It's like, there's a line and you don't cross it with people.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the criticisms I keep on hearing often of journalism, obviously, right, is that all the journalists are lefties. And I heard a quote from someone, I can't remember the quote exactly. Well, it's not so much a quote, it was somebody explaining it. And they were explaining that it's not that journalists are inherently left. It's they deal with people every day, all the time, often in their worst moments, because in journalism, if it bleeds, it leads.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do journalism, particularly journalism where you're covering tragedies or terrible events and you're dealing with people, and not be empathetic.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have your professional. You have to make sure that your empathy is not coloring what you're writing and all that kind of stuff, that you are actually, you're staying faithful to the story. But it's journalism is almost actual journalism is almost anathema to being as radically right as some politicians are presenting themselves as being, because you just, when you're sitting face to face with someone and you're discussing what just happened in their lives, and it's probably a moment that's shocking enough to be newsworthy. If you're stone cold or emotionless, or you're sitting there like this while you're doing the interview, well, it's probably your own damn fault. You brought it on yourself.
Yeah.
How's that going to help you get to the story?
Yeah. I think it goes, if I had to pick an equivalent, it's like, you know how some lawyers are ambulance chasers and others are like, we're going to fight the good fight and we're going to get this all shut down. We're going to get you free from justice and stuff. I think you can argue that about any profession, really. Journalists are the same thing. Like, people are not going to talk to you if you're sitting there like, really, you put your house that close to the water? Like, come on. Why are you even in this career path? You have to talk to people. You have to be empathetic. I swung too far the other way. Like, I was overly empathetic. Well, I mean, it's my town. I know these people. These are not strangers I'm talking to.
It's hard.
That's what an editor's for, by the way. I'm just going right in the story. But that's where your checks and balances come in, right? You have an editing team that are like, yeah, we're going to pull out your opinion and your rhetoric. I get that you're sympathetic to this person, but this is not about you. This is not your opinion. This is about what this person has been through and what they're sharing and their experience, kind of thing. So, like, yeah, that's why you have these checks and balances with proper journalism too.
Yeah, and again, kids and cubs, the difference between actual journalism and some person behind a keyboard just spouting their opinion.
Yeah,
someone actually checks your opinion.
Yeah.
Someone checks my own research.
But you're questioned and you're challenged, right, on your opinions. Why did you do that? Who did you talk to? Did you talk to this person? Why are you framing it this way? Why is it that you have to justify all those decisions?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I would submit an article and it gets stripped out and I have to rewrite it. Like, yeah, we won awards for that work, but like there was a massive amount of editing that went through because I was not impartial the way I needed to be. How could I be? Right.
Right.
It was not possible, but I had, really great team and they picked up my slack is all I can say with that one.
Well, being a journalist is about having your ego checked a lot along the way.
Oh yeah. You have to shove it aside. It's not my job. It's not my story. I'm just the conduit, right? Which is what I accuse CBC of being, is a conduit for things that undermine our sovereignty and our values.
Yeah.
I missed that part of the mandate that said they were supposed to do that.
I'm sitting here at home goes, I'm sorry. It's like, but I do not pay my tax dollars to go to the CBC to then hear programming about me being anything other than Canadian. Thank you very much.
Indeed.
But that's not where I go for that type of programming. If I want to pay for that programming, I go somewhere else.
Exactly. CBC should be defending Canada 100% of the time. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. End of story. The question should not be asked, right?
And that's the editorial bent, right? That's the bias. Okay, we get it like this, but it's like the bias is on the table, right? And you know what you get. Like I said, you interpret based on that. But the public broadcaster itself should not be doing this stuff.
Yeah, and like, not to pick on you guys are like, oh, we're not journalists. You've done more responsibly about explaining this stuff, I think, than a lot of the bigger networks. And I'm not just picking on CBC here. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm going, to fund the CBC or whatever. I think they're necessary in this country, especially like Newfoundland, rural Newfoundland. Oh, yes. We need them, but we have to have them held to the standard where it meets journalism. And they can put all their little blurbs about their journalistic principles on the bottom of their website, but when they don't hit it, people should be speaking out. It's like, this is not a discussion. This is, a threat of annexation. It does not meet the requirements for a discussion, a journalistic discussion. So yeah, we need to hold them to better. But lately I've been reading a lot of independence. So you guys are going on, we're not journalists. I think citizen journalism has a place, as long as it's done responsibly, and you guys find your checks and balances and enforce them and adhere to them. Like, journalism is not inherently hard. You have to, like you said, get your ego out of the way, report the facts, deal with the issues that matter. But anyone can do it. You just have to be responsible about it. So I do think there's a role for podcasters as journalists. And you have the Independent in Newfoundland. It's the Independent. I read that a lot. There's the Tyee, the Walrus, Cult Montreal. Like, there's plenty of responsible, smaller, independent journalism that deserve the support. But people usually, especially my mother's one of them, the seniors, they flick on the evening news and whatever's on there is gospel, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
whatever's on there is gospel. I find I have to have a lot of conversations with people one-on-one to get them to understand this is actually an ad. It's propaganda. It has no basis in fact. Or you're misunderstanding the issue because of the framing on the news network kind of thing. Like, so yeah, how to counter that? I don't know. Subscribe to the independent journalisms.
This is why we have a show, though, because
Mhm.
we got so sick of seeing people come out and lie
Yeah.
on legacy media, and nobody held their feet to the fire for it. They just let them say whatever they wanted. And I'm like, hang on a second here.
Mhm.
This is not the town square.
Yeah.
As a journalist, as you've said, if somebody says it's raining outside, your job is not to nod your head and say yes. It's to look out the goddamn window and verify it.
Yeah.
So
Or
if
take a
they're
microphone
lying,
and put it in the face of the guy that says it's sunny. Says the other guy says it's raining. How do you respond to that?
yes,
Yeah.
at a minimum, instead of just one side's in it. And that's the part that drove us nuts. So we're like, no, we're facts first.
Mhm.
We make no bones about the fact that we are progressives.
Mhm.
We are centrists who lean left. We're
Yeah,
not hardcore. We're not extreme. Somebody says, you're pretty extreme. You believe in trans rights. Yeah, because they're human rights.
Yeah, like,
How is that complicated?
yeah, like you're either human or you're not.
Yeah.
That's about as, I don't know how far left leaning that is. Like, we're
I think if you're a trans person, you have a right to exist. And you should have all the same rights and freedoms that I enjoy as a cis, het, white male.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if you think that's extreme left, we can't have a conversation because it will come to verbal blows.
Yeah.
I mean, anything should be centrist. It's that. I mean, that's like right smack down the line.
Yeah.
It's like I keep on saying, it's like my position is that if you are going to advocate in any way that someone else should have fewer rights than you do, this is not a conversation starter. As a
Yeah.
human being that shares the planet with every other human being, breathes the same air, we're all entitled to the same basic entry level amount of respect. Everything after that is earned, but we are entitled, and your right, your fundamental right to exist. Like I said, that's also not a
I don't understand
two-side
how that's leaning.
conversation. Like this, as a gay man, when I keep on hearing people turn around going, like this, oh, gays should all be whatever they want to do to us. And it's like, I'm not going to entertain this as a conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Clearly.
Shut it down.
This is not any conversation where you say anybody for any reason, particularly if it's reason beyond their own or their control. It's like I can't control that I'm gay. I can't control that I'm brown. I can't control, if I have a disability. I can't control that. This is how I come. This is how I present to the world. This is who I am. If that very my very essence, my very existence is a political act of rebellion, we have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will stand at the front of that parade to fight back for you.
Yeah.
Because you have the same rights and you should have the exact same rights that I have. Now I have white privilege, I have male privilege, I have cis privilege, I have het privilege. And those things are all part of the hierarchy of that pyramid. I sit atop of that pyramid. I know this. So it is imperative that I use that privilege to fight for others to have the same rights as me. If I don't do that, then it's a wasted life.
Yeah.
And when it comes to journalism, our point of view is that there are very few things more important than a citizen's right to cast a fully informed vote.
Oh gosh, yes. It's the
Right.
very least we can do.
Right. So, and my respect for journalists comes from that fact that journalists that actually do the job of journalism, that actually commit journalism and follow the codes, are helping me with that. A journalist that hasn't lost their sense of curiosity, a journalist that still has the ability to ask the painfully obvious follow-up question, helps me when it comes time to cast my vote. Because the journalist that puts a wrong frame on something, the journalist that wants, a media outlet that puts a really snazzy headline that makes me want to click it, and then I get to the article and whatever's in the headlines in like paragraph 47 and only tangentially mentions the thing that's in the headline. That doesn't help me cast an informed vote.
I read a lot of, like, not just the newspapers I mentioned, but I read a lot of foreign news too. So like The Guardian had a take on this. In the UK, there was an Australian paper that I read. So like, you're not limited to just how Canadians view things. You're not limited to just how Americans view things, but I would consider the source when you're trying to inform yourself. Like, that has to play into it too, right? Like, if you're only going to read CBC, if you're only going to read CTV, like, sometimes you have to know where it's coming from outside the States. There was, I think BBC had it on there yesterday about, should Canada, and I know I've got this wrong, but like, it went to the same question, like, and they had video. It's like, okay, that's great that they have an opinion, but it's not their countries to annex. So to me, they're of a lesser value than Canadians talking about this. I'll always front a Canadian opinion first on a Canadian issue because they're the ones that are directly affected. So it goes to, like you were saying, about cis, white, and all this kind of stuff. Well, you're not my first interview for gay rights. No offense, right? Like, unless we're talking about white privilege,
I don't even need to be at the table.
Yeah, you don't need to be at the table. I'm sorry, but like,
don't apologize. I'm not offended by that. It's that simple.
The women's center that supports gay rights here in this town and talk to them about it, because I know the work that they do and that they're active, and they'll usually, if there's someone that wants to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with me, they're really good at sourcing, someone who will have that conversation. So it's not just what is being said or how it's being said, it's who is saying it, which is why I took such offense to O'Leary, because he was with Danielle Smith down there with Trump. And it's like, of all the people in the country, you can find one political scientist, really.
Yep, really. It's Canada. It's not like we lack them.
Well,
we're kind of a very political nation.
I have noticed. You know what? I think that's to our benefit, though. I think that's a good thing.
I think my biggest issue with that whole show, the program, and again, when Ian Hanomansing said he wasn't going to push back or question any of the things that Kevin O'Leary said, I'm like, hold on a second now. And I'm going to refer back, allow me some leeway here, so I'm going to go in a bit of a circle here. But I refer back to this, Karl Popper, The Paradox of Tolerance. Unlimited tolerance must lead to the disappearance of tolerance. If we extend unlimited tolerance even to those who are intolerant, if we are not prepared to defend a tolerant society against the onslaught of the intolerant, then the tolerant will be destroyed and tolerance with them. I think Ian Hanomansing not pushing back on Kevin O'Leary and saying point blank, I'm not gonna judge any of the things you just said, is allowing intolerance in. Now, somebody might say, you're being ridiculous, Paul, you're being alarmist. And I go, yeah, but it doesn't come in like a freight train. No, it starts with little ants, little dribbles, little drabs, and then slowly gets bigger. And if you allow people to say outlandish, untrue things unchecked, that just leads to an intolerant society. So when somebody says, you're the tolerant left, but you told this Nazi to go, yeah, because he's a Nazi. That's why I did it.
Context.
Yeah, context.
So I'm disappointed in the CBC, and I'm disappointed in Ian Hannah-Mansfield for that. And I have always, whenever I'll post something, where do you get your news? The CBC? Yeah, the CBC, the BBC, occasionally CNN, not often, The Guardian, DW. There's lots of good sources out there. Al Jazeera. I mean, there's lots of great sources out there. Fox News is not one of them.
No.
Fox News is not news.
Nor
It's
is
an
Rebel.
entertainment program.
I would argue against Rebel Media too.
Oh yeah, same thing. Oh yeah, we don't call them journalists, and they don't even qualify as journalists in this country.
They don't call themselves journalists when they're in court.
When they're in court.
Well, don't they have? Didn't they get access to the White House now? Was it Rebel?
TASS.
That list?
TASS.
I don't know about Rebel, but TASS.
Yeah, the Russian news. Yeah.
Yeah. On that day,
found out,
the White House. He just wandered into that White
as
House.
soon as we found out he was here, we kicked him out.
Yeah.
As soon as you found out, you know how many levels of security you have to go through to set foot in the Oval Office? They knew he was there.
Of course,
they just didn't like getting called out for it.
Well, I'm going to walk down there and try it.
Yeah, give it a go. Yeah,
really.
How it works out, eh?
See if I can.
Hi there, I'm a journalist. Don't need to look at anything. Just let me walk in. I'll get right
me
next
walk
to the
in.
Prime Minister or the President and just ask a couple of questions and then just leave. Okay, don't. Happens never.
No, gosh, you want to know the screenings we got to go through just to get access to any of the higher level politicians.
Well, and I don't know if you've noticed. I'm sure you probably have. Pierre Poilievre is doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's limiting. He's like Rebel News, India Times, something else. Radio Canada.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was
at
the
least
only
he's got
legacy.
Radio Canada in there. Like
He had the Logic the other day ask him a question.
Did he?
On Sunday, yeah, someone from the Logic. I don't know how they got in there, but
Yeah.
must have got in there the same way the person from TASS got into the White House.
Yeah. Yeah.
The I guess as an old school journalist, my main question, I guess, is given the state of journalism today, if you were journalism enlightened despot of the world for a day or a week, what are the elements of the journalist's code that you would bring people's attention back to these days, because people seem to have forgotten it?
Yeah, journalism has devolved into entertainment in too many ways, and that has to do with advertising dollars and that kind of stuff. I like a lot of independent journalists. Former journalists are out of work, like you can support them kind of thing. They really tend to have no dog in the fight. Like I like journalists that doesn't have a dog in the fight. So yes, while I listen to CBC all the time, this is why I listen to foreign news to see how we are preparing how we appear on the world stage. How are these issues resonating outside of our broader scope? Right. So I like to get a lot of perspective, not just, oh, well, this is the CBC and this is it. But I don't subscribe to Rebel News either. And yes, it's right-wing propaganda, all this kind of stuff. But I have read some stuff on there to think, well, maybe I missed, right? But a basic fact check can correct so much. I would really love to see fact checking and political systems, because people seem to think healthcare is a federal issue. It's not. So, and there was a guy on that CBC program that didn't understand that healthcare, was not, couldn't find a doctor. Well, that's neither here nor there for the purposes of this discussion, right? Right. So I really would like to see some more education, basically. And if you can't find it, if you can't find a civics class, go to YouTube and then pick your news sources accordingly. And not just to what resonates with you. Like I said, I have read the right-wing stuff to see if there's any value there. I've rejected most because I can run a fact check. Wikipedia, by the way, not a fact check. We were never allowed to quote it in journalism school. No. Right? No. And I'm not saying it doesn't have value, but usually if I'm looking at a Wikipedia, there's a study cited down at the bottom. I'll read the study.
Mhm.
So just some basic fact checking.
Yeah, Wikipedia is good for the citations.
Yeah. And then if they're consistently getting it wrong, like Rebel News or if you're reading the Russian news, you have to bear in mind their slant and that kind of thing. So it's, you said informed opinion. Canadians have informed opinions. I think this is less problematic for us here, maybe not, but less than what you see going on in the US right now, which is why they're in the shape they're in.
Well, I would like to think that Canadians are better informed than our neighbors to the south. I would like to think that. I don't know. Maybe that's Canadian smugness. But I have noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed, and I'm not a fan of polls, but if you've noticed the polls for federal right now, what is happening? People were tired of Justin Trudeau. They weren't tired of the government. They were tired of the leader. And now that they're looking like a new leader might be Mark Carney, and people keep saying he is, I'm like, we don't know that until the election has happened. We don't know.
No, we don't.
And they could have 3 or 4 ballots before they determine the leader. But what has happened is people switch their sort of, I don't know if I want to use the word allegiance, but their alliance with a particular political party from conservative to liberal federally, because most people do not like or cannot stomach the current conservative leader. They don't like the way he does politics. They don't like the fact that he lies constantly. And most Canadians are well aware of this. Now, his base, his 20% support, think of his word as that of the Almighty, I think. But I'd say the vast majority of Canadians can see through his rhetoric and just want, as I've said, and I hate that I have to say this, but in this instance, let's get an old white man to steady the ship while we've got a lunatic south of the 49th parallel running the most powerful military on earth.
I really like Karina Gould.
I love her.
I really loved Kamala Harris.
Yep.
So smart. But as a white female, I'm white, I'm privileged, I live in Canada, all of it. I am bitterly aware of, trans females in my town and they have problems that I can never relate to.
Right.
Or except try to help inform people that they're having this. But this whole thing about women in politics, I used to love Margaret Thatcher, hated her policies, but the woman was in power back before all this, back before it was normal to see women running for these kinds of positions.
Right.
So I really think we still got a ways to go. So Mark Carney, probably because he's an old white guy that everyone likes with money. Well, he doesn't personally have money, but he's good with money, right? I think he's got $5 million. He's not a career politician. But Karina Gould, to me, to me, Karina Gould is, she hit more for me when I was watching the debates, and she's obviously not one who goes out and just chats with the millionaires. She goes out and talks to people on the street. So she landed for me, and I would dearly love to see her as prime minister, but she is young and she is female, and she's not gonna win. And it's horrible that I had, and nothing against Carney. I think he's great, by the way. I was NDP for 30 years.
Right.
It's about as centrist as I could get. But I voted for all political parties in the past.
As have we. Yeah.
But
I've never belonged to a political party, and I never will. And I vote for, and everybody says, well, who are you voting for? You're voting for Trudeau? No, I'm voting for my member of parliament in my constituency.
I vote for policies. And I'm one of those annoying people that would go to when they're campaigning locally, even before I was a journalist, I'll go to those things and I'll ask them questions and drive them crazy because that's how my parents raised me. It's if you're putting this person to have some kind of power over your life, you better go talk to this person.
Yeah. Find out who they are as a person, let alone how they can intend to conduct themselves as a politician that is a representative of your neighborhood, your community, your constituency. I think we've got I think we've got a hopeful future ahead. I don't think Karina will win this time.
No.
I do believe she is the future of that party, and I do believe she will be prime minister one day. I
I
just
hope so.
don't think it's going to be this time. And I only say that is because people need that sort of reassuring old white rich man guiding hand right now because of what's happening south of the 49th.
Yeah.
And I think now I could be way out to lunch on this, but I think that really is the case. And I don't think there is any centrist individual in this country, or even a progressive conservative, and there is no federal progressive conservative party, that it's been gone for over 20 years. I don't think there's a progressive conservative in this country who would tell you that Pierre Poilievre would do better against Trump than Mark Carney. And again, I could be way out to lunch on this, but I don't think I am.
I don't know. It depends on what poll you read and what day, because it shifts
Yes.
every hour.
Yes.
But yeah, I think Carney's our best bet, or else we're going to end up with problems that are going on down the south of the border. It terrifies me more than anything else.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's, you know, the talk in that country right now of a civil war. I honestly, I really hope that doesn't happen, but it's every day. Every day, Trump opens his mouth and says something stupider than the moment before. And he has divided that country like no one ever has before. It's like Ronald Reagan is spinning in his grave right now.
He was not all that in a bag of chips. I remember the Reagan.
No, up until recently.
Computer's dying, so we're going to move a bit.
Oh,
no worries.
Up until recently, you asked us, because Jake had asked us, right, a while ago, who did we think was the best and the worst president in history? My choice was Reagan.
For worse.
Was it?
Yeah, for worse.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
at the time. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess we don't agree completely on everything then.
For worst.
For worst, yes.
For worst, yes.
For worse.
On economics thing, he should be
Terrible.
spinning his grave.
Yeah.
He should be.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
That was the worst thing.
But I mean, the United States of America foreign policy is just aligned with that of Russia.
Yeah, I saw
Never
that.
in my almost 57 years on this planet would I have thought that would take place.
No, that's a real hard reality check there.
It really is.
Yep.
It was a big gut punch for a lot of people on Friday. And I've watched that several times, and each time I'm like, I still can't believe that happened. And it did. It's just, we're in the upside down.
Yeah, I keep seeing that phrase, and that's pretty accurate, the upside down.
Yeah. Rosalyn, I was wondering, for those of us who are at home and watching this, who are not journalists, our show tries to put an emphasis on civics literacy, media literacy, and political literacy so that people would have the tools. Given that we have a federal election coming, given that we have two of the big five or six federal parties, the PPC, the CPC, do absolutely and shamelessly traffic in untruths and weird framing and torquing and twisting. What can citizens here in Canada do to be sure that they're consuming news in a manner that is helpful to them?
Stop shouting, stop buying these slogans. Stop buying into the marketing and try doing some fact checking. That can start with basic policy program. They all have their platforms, right? Start running platforms and see which one fits best with what you want for yourself and your family and your country, because the platforms will tell you more than anything that ever comes out of a politician's mouth. They have to take a stand, and you can look at their voting history too, right? So that's pretty telling, because who they have been all along when it comes to their political votes tends to lead you into who they will be moving forward. So just some basic fact checking, like ignore what they're saying and look at what they're doing. Look at what their platforms say. Go to the meetings and talk to your local reps, your local candidates. That's how I vote. I don't usually vote for a national party. I'm not tied to any one of them. So when I go talk to them, that's where my vote tends to land. And I know that's unpopular. Some people are like, oh, we have to be strategic and vote Liberal and vote Polyev or vote whatever. And it's like, I've never voted that way.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to find your own way of how you vote. Maybe that works for you. That's, you have to find that way. But look at the voting history, look at the platforms and figure out, what hits, as opposed to listening to their talking points and
Verb the noun.
yeah, verb the noun. Like, there's so many. Stop paying attention to Facebook.
Yes, please, yes.
Platform. Good Lord, X is bad, but at least it's really overt. I find Facebook more insidious.
Agreed.
Especially in small, like around here, Facebook is king. So if it's on Facebook, they take it as gospel truth. It's not.
Well, I recently, just before the Ontario election, and we somehow failed miserably. But just before the Ontario election, Mr. Beaver said to me, he says, what are your words of wisdom? And my words of wisdom then, and still are, and will forever be, when you go to cast your ballot, remember to cast it for, yes, certainly yourself, but also your next door neighbor, that senior in long-term care, your neighbor down the street whose child has autism, the person over there who is differently abled and cannot work. Cast your vote for your community. Who's going to do the best for your community? Not just you, because a rising boat lifts all tides. And guess what? When everybody does better, so do you.
That's excellent advice. I like that one too.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Once in a while, this old construction worker comes up with a little tidbit of wisdom.
But it's really smart. It's true. You do have to take into account others. We have the most autism-friendly community in Canada. Like, there were TV shows and stuff about it. Like, it matters to us when it comes to our voting.
It does. It does.
It does.
Absolutely.
Rosalyn, before we let you go, do you have any words of wisdom to share with our kits and cubs?
Support independent journalism, and don't limit yourself to what you read. Just do some fact checking. Just get on social media. Just run a basic fact check. It shouldn't take hard. And if you don't understand an issue, the cornerstone of journalism is asking questions. I think citizens should be journalists and ask these questions. I really think anyone,
I've long said there are no stupid questions.
No.
It's stupid when you don't ask the question. And then I usually preface that, or not preface, but add an addendum to that is, and do not ever go to Yahoo Answers.
No.
Don't do that, because there are stupid questions there.
I was listening to something the other day that was asking AI stuff like this, and they would ask a question like this, that they knew the answer was wrong when they got it. And then they would just, they asked AI, and then they said, "Are you sure?" I got the AI come, "Oh, here, I forgot this, I forgot that." So it's always, if you're looking at something in AI, get your first answer, no matter what you do, always ask, "Are you sure?" Apparently.
The only thing I like AI for is to explain something to me, usually science, because my mind is artsy and writing. So when they go on about space and that kind of, I don't understand any of it. Quantum physics, you might as well be talking Martian to me. So I'll have the AI break it down to me like I'm 10. And that's about as far as I go with it.
That's great.
I need to understand how, the quasars work or whatever they are, or the quarks. And it's because all I've seen is Star Trek and Star Wars. It's I didn't quite grasp that part. And that's what I use AI for.
Rosalyn, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you
so much for having me. It's been a great fun. And
You're welcome anytime. The Beaver Lodge, there's always a place for you here.
Yeah, if you have a strong opinion about something at one point and want to shout it out, just give us a call.
Beaver Lodge to the Grizzly Den.
Okay, if I have a strong opinion, it's going on there. You can just put me there.
Anytime you want to come on and talk about anything, we're happy to have you.
Yes,
thank you so much.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
and we're really happy that you did because, like we said, we do have a focus on providing some literacy. So when we have an opportunity to speak to someone who actually does commit to journalism and holds it in their heart, uh, we definitely want to hear from them. Absolutely. So thank you for that open letter. You may not realize it, but it was a gift to the nation.
Well,
Indeed.
I wouldn't go that far. It was just a rant because I felt so passionately about something. But I think you guys do great work. I think podcasts is important journalism, and I congratulate you on doing this for 594 shows, I think it was. So
Yeah.
keep it up. I expect another 594 more.
That's our plan.
Oh, thank you so
We don't
much.
plan on going anywhere.
Have a most delightful day.
Thanks, you too. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
That's wonderful.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
That's awesome. I said, the writing alone, the quality of the writing, the quality of the thought, the eloquence, how everything was just, I was like, it took me 5 tweets to say what she said in one box. And then she had like 10 of them, and each one of them was like powerful. On that alone, I could not resist. It's like, I have to talk to this person, because there are people who write and communicate, and you can tell their minds are messy. And then there are people who write and communicate, and you can tell their minds are clear. Now, of course, it took 20 drafts.
It's fine.
But again, the fact that you were aware that you're writing something emotional, and then you write it the first time, and then you write it again, and then somewhere along the way you say, okay, well, I guess I have some emotions, I have some feelings, but I want this text to have a purpose and serve.
Mm-hmm.
And then the text becomes about more than just getting your emotion or your thought out. The text then becomes a service. And that's why I said it was a gift, because this is a letter to the ombudsman.
Yes.
By the way, Kids and Cubs, early democracy is something that you can do. Write a letter to the CBC ombudsman. Not only journalists can do it, you can do it too. Just to let you know. But when you have someone that has such a sense of clarity
Mhm.
on what their duty is and what there isn't, what's allowed and what isn't, what they're, what upholds the profession and what doesn't, and then abides by it. Those are my kind of people. That's my bias. I'm biased towards those kind of people,
Mhm.
and therefore I bring them to you, Kids and Cubs, and hopefully you found the conversation engaging and interesting and informative and edifying. Mr. Grizzly, do you have any thoughts about it?
I don't know. I think I kind of expressed myself throughout the show. I think it's citizen journalism, as Rosalyn just said, is she feels that podcasts and citizen journalism is important. Now we're not journalists. We're not. We parse the news and we comment, and we do editorialize. And when we get it wrong, we apologize and we correct the record.
Yep.
Because and unlike some individuals online who will get it wrong intentionally and then apologize later, quietly, so that nobody notices.
Yes.
Because they made the money off the first thing. We're never going to do that. There are some things that have come across my feed and yours that we've looked at, and you and I have talked about. We don't have enough information to get into that, so let's avoid it for now. We'll come back to it at a later date. There's been a few topics like that over the last few years,
where we've just avoided giving the hot take. It's just we didn't have anything of value to add.
Right. And that's going to stand. If we don't have anything value to add to it, and it's just my opinion, well, I don't think that's good. I can form my opinion on anything, of course, but it's usually formed with multiple sources providing me factual, verifiable information, not just one tweet that comes across the feed from somebody who is a journalist. I need more than that. Yeah.
Now, Kids and Cubs,
we have some very, very, very good news for you, because yesterday we found out that our good friend, who also does not consider himself to be a journalist, Mr. Nate Pike,
Got his show
and
back.
so the Breakdown Alberta are back, baby. Yeah. And Nate is more fueled than before, more focused, more clear-eyed. He's not going anywhere. We had planned to bring you very early on basically the first day that we saw that he had been slapped with a $6 million suit. We asked him if he would be available to come on the show. He did say yes. We were trying to pick a time because he is a paramedic, where he had time in his shift clear, and then we had free time as well. We were not able to connect, and then a show, I got the order that he had to pull everything for a bit. So when we found out the news yesterday, we wrote him and says, does that mean you are allowed to talk and we can do that interview? And he said, yes. So we're waiting for him to propose some times that fit with the schedule, and we will be able to have a conversation about that. But yes, he's back.
This is good. This is
And
good
not
news.
a moment too soon. And by the way, his legal defense fund has raised over $200,000, which he says will definitely help.
Yes.
In terms of fighting this case. And who knows, maybe with a little left over that he could fight future cases if somebody decides to try this again. I am hoping that in his case, he is not only defending, but countersuing. I really hope he is countersuing, because when someone does this type of legal action on you to get you to shut down because they have so much more money than you do and might makes right legally, all that happened very publicly. And if all that happened for things that were claimed and alleged defamation that wasn't actually true, wouldn't that in itself be defamation?
One would think. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't determine that.
I'm not a lawyer either. But if
conjecture.
that is indeed the case, I hope, especially now that he's found out, thanks to the AHS CEO's legal claim that some people tried to come directly for his job as a paramedic, I am hoping that there is some countersuit somewhere, or just a suit of his own. Perhaps after the thing with the AHS CEO goes through court, or I guess it'll probably be settled, but I'm pretty sure that Mr. Pike has placed a couple of, or Mr. Pike's lawyers have placed a couple of phone calls asking for more information about that. Because I have a feeling, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I have a feeling that information pertaining to that would come in very handy in a counterclaim trial.
Something I want to make note of here. Nate's show, The Breakdown, when he had to pull it down,
Yes.
he had 40,000 subscribers.
Yes.
That all got wiped out. Completely wiped out. So 6 years he's been doing the show. He had 40,000 subscribers. One rich guy decided he didn't like the fact that somebody was telling the truth about him, and they made him take his website, his YouTube page down. And in doing so, he lost all of his subscribers. He's up to 1,650 at the moment. All of his videos are reposted. So if you want to go back and resubscribe, I just did. I put a link to, should I put a link to a show? Hang on, let me just, there is it, The Breakdown.
I did that yesterday.
Yeah.
Too.
Okay, there we go. I'm going to copy it, and I'll put a link to his YouTube page here if everybody wants to go in and subscribe to it. I strongly recommend you do, because he's an awesome guy, and we'd like to see him get his channel back to where it once was. 40,000 subscribers wiped out. Took him
Yeah.
6 years to build to that.
Yep. Fortunately, he's back up to 1,650, which means he can monetize again.
Yes.
Fortunately, and all the things are going back up. But yes, if you ever were subscribed to him, please do go and resubscribe. And if you weren't, please do. Right, help out those who are doing the good work of making sure that we are properly informed.
Mhm.
That would be a good way to do democracy as well.
We would like to think so.
Yes. All right, kits and cubs. I think we have a show. Tomorrow's probably going to be a bit of a busier show because, from what I can tell, I think the tariffs did go into effect at 12:01 a.m.
Yes,
not
they
sure.
did, and I have something to share with everybody about that. I've got a little video clip here. I'm going to share you. I'm going to share the tweet and then the video clip that goes along with it. And the tweet itself is just a chef's kiss. Because what it says is, today the United States tore up the USMCA, a trade agreement called the best trade deal ever, in quotations, by Donald Trump, who negotiated and signed it. Canada and Mexico believe this was in good faith. The message to the world: the United States of America cannot be trusted. And I'll play the video clip for you now.
Into effect tomorrow.
Let me just restart it here.
Tariffs, is there any room left for Canada and Mexico to make a deal before midnight? And should we expect those Chinese tariffs, the extra 10%, to take effect
No room
tomorrow?
left for Mexico or for Canada. No, the tariffs, they're all set. They go into effect tomorrow.
Like, I mean, they called it the greatest trade deal ever, the one that he signed, and now he's saying, who's the idiot who signed this? You demented, twisted old...
Mm-hmm.
Deep breaths, deep breaths.
Mm-hmm. Breathe in sanity, breathe out fuckwadness. It's just, ugh. And let's be honest, kits and cubs here. When he says there's no more room to negotiate, there was never room to negotiate.
No.
Because there was never any final destination. I have a problem with fentanyl crossing our border and all these people. Okay, what would you like done? I want you to do something. What would you like to do? Something. And it has to satisfy me. But what would that thing be? It has to be something. I won't tell you what that something is. I won't set any metrics. I won't tell you when you've reached the goal. I won't tell you, but it has to be. There was never, that's not a negotiation. That's pin the tail on the donkey. Political style. Donkey was chosen for a very specific purpose. It's put a blindfold on and throw something at a dartboard and see if something connects. Like this, if you're in a negotiation with someone and somebody won't tell you at an endpoint, somebody won't give you a specific metric that you need to reach in order to satisfy this, that is not a negotiation. That's someone who's making you dance. That is bad faith.
Well, here's something that I need more of our reporters in this country to do, is to stand up to politicians and pose the hard questions. And yesterday, a reporter asked this of Mike Johnson. So just to be clear, unelected government officials are dangerous, but unelected billionaires making policy decisions is fine. Mike Johnson: that's not what I said. Reporter: right, but it's what's happening. You're handing major government functions to a private citizen with no oversight. If he was in the EPA, you'd be calling him a deep state bureaucrat. Mike Johnson: I think you're misunderstanding the situation. Reporter: no, I think I'm just describing it out loud. More of that, please. More of that. Hold their feet to the fire. This is what is happening in the United States of America. You no longer have a democracy. And I think more people need to know this, because a lot of people just don't.
Yep. I'm right with you there, Mr. Grizzly. Right with you there. Do we have a show, sir?
We do indeed.
All right, kits and cubs. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show, or the True North Eager Beaver Interview Project. We hope that you love listening to us, because we loved making this for you, and we definitely loved bringing this guest for you. We hope that you did enjoy it. Remember, sharing is caring, and word of mouth is priceless. So please, 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 please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Please do share this episode with those who might have a passion for journalism or wondering what's up, like we are. If you would like to support us in other ways, like, for example, making sure you do not miss an episode of our show in podcast form, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl. If you scan that QR code that has appeared right under my chin, right there, there, that brings you to our pod page, podpage.com/The True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. No fuss, no muss. Now, if you would like to help us in another way, Kit Elaine and Kit Cassie are certainly urging you very strongly to surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where Kits and Cubs, we have just crossed 500,000 views yesterday. 500,000 views on our page. Thank you so much, Kits and Cubs. That's a major milestone for us. So please do keep watching and do keep clicking. True North Eager Beaver Media, yet YouTube. Go there. We have buttons, like, share, and subscribe. If you click them, it makes us happy, and it also helps us with the algorithm. So thank you very much for that. If you would like to help us in other ways, Kits and Cubs, well, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, and we would hope that this show provides you with information, a little bit of entertainment, and all the other things that you like and that you need from your favorite grizzly and beaver combo to get through your day and being an informed citizen. If you do appreciate what we do, a little token of appreciation in the form of a contribution to the Beaver Lodge's emergency hydration fund so that you can keep your favorite critters moist would be very appreciated. You need to go down to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, or scan the QR code that's appeared right by Mr. Grizzly's head to get to our tip jar and show us your enthusiastic appreciation for our show. Now, if you are not able to contribute financially, hey, it's not a problem, because you're here and we're here. And we would be nothing without you if you were not here. The gift of your presence and your attention are the ones that matter the most to us. So please, 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 please write to us, because we'd like to hear from you. TrueNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com is our email address. And you can also use that to send us a direct donation, where we get 100% of your donation, and you don't have to go through any US CE bros like the PayPal people. 100% Canadian transaction through Canadian Bank. So that's always appreciated. We like to give you choices, but we like to hear from you. So write us, let us know what you thought about this interview, about our guest selection, at our email address, TrueNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com, at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, at True Eager, at the Bad Place, also at True Eager, our Facebook page, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, and of course, right here on YouTube, if you're watching, down here in the comment section, just leave us a little something. We do try to read everything, and it means a lot to us, because it all adds to our show and makes it better. Because democracy is something that you do. By-elections coming up, a provincial one in Winnipeg, I think in the Winnipeg area, but in Manitoba for sure, coming up. I will get more details from that and bring them to you in the coming days. Also, one in the Halifax region announced yesterday, which will go ahead on April 14th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if there isn't a federal election called before then. That will be to replace the federal seat that was vacated by now Halifax Mayor Mr. Fillmore. So that will be happening. Of course, there's a leadership race in Quebec for, if you're a Liberal. There will be leadership races commencing in Newfoundland and Labrador and Prince Edward Island eventually. By the way, if anybody has heard, the Premier of Prince Edward Island, who left rather abruptly, we found out yesterday, was named ambassador to Italy.
Oh, Oh, interesting. Good for him.
So there you go. Still would be contributing.
I just didn't see that coming. Like where
I didn't see that coming too, because I really thought it was like just, more family time. But I guess um, it's family time and still being politically involved, but in another way.
Well, and his family, his young family will. Well, I don't know how young his family is. I shouldn't say that, but his family will, in all likelihood, relocate to Italy with him. So
Yes.
he will still have family time. And as a diplomat,
Yeah.
he's time isn't nearly as demanding necessarily as premier.
Mhm. It still is demanding. I think out of like 300.
I'm not. Yeah.
I dated a diplomat once, and I believe like 282 of the 365 days there was an evening event that they had to be to. I mean,
I'm not saying
it's a
they're
lifestyle.
not busy. I'm just
No.
I'm just saying there's
Yeah. No. It's a lifestyle.
yes.
It's
They can
definitely a
carve out a
lifestyle.
little bit more family time for themselves is what
Yes,
I'm trying
they
to.
can. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, hope that goes very well for the former premier. Good luck in your new adventure. So yeah, that's all the democracy, something that you do. Oh yes, of course, liberal convention voting day is very soon. We're the 4th, so the voting day is in 5 days. My God, it's coming fast. So do make sure you're registered. Some people have needed 4 or 5 attempts to get their ID verified in order to be able to vote. So don't give up and do keep trying there. And I will definitely have to write to the party today and figure out why it is I haven't received any instructions for voting, because it seems everybody else in the country has except for me. So I will go look at that. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom?
When everybody else around you is losing their head, do your best to maintain yours.
All right. Again, Kit playing with 3D. Hope that you had a wonderful birthday yesterday. Kit Elaine, it's your birthday today, I've seen in the chat. So happy birthday to you. 29 again, with so much experience. I hope that your birthday is fabulous and beaverific at the same time. Hope you can handle that. That's a lot. And a little comment there that I saw in the chat as the conversation was going by, I think from Kit PNC Bio, going, I'm not sure I want a cocoon of all pro-Canadian news by the national broadcaster. Just for clarity, that's not what we're advocating for as well. Not pro-Canadian news, but news for Canadians by Canadians, and news a public broadcaster that when they interact with us are not pushing upon Canadians. Hey, Daniel Smith sort of, what if we like we're American?
Yeah.
And what if we that? we don't go there for that. But no, definitely not pro Canada news. It's like truthful news.
Mm-hmm. Truthful
the
news.
good, the bad, and the ugly. All of it. So just to be clear, that's what we were advocating for. Definitely not a cocoon of all pro Canadian news. That doesn't help anyone. That's not helpful. All right, Mr. Grizzly. I think it's time to cue the cock.
Well, if you say so, sir, we can certainly do that.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
I have a little Easter egg for you. I thought I'd
All
share
right.
this. This is from Jean Charest. I don't know if you've
Ooh.
seen this. He was on the Rosemary Barton show. And I think, well, just have a look. And it went sideways on me there. There we go.
You know, there are very hard lessons we're all learning in this episode. No one's going to stand up for us in the way that we have to stand up for ourselves. We've been complacent. It was easy to deal with the Americans. And now we have to come to terms with the fact that we're going to live in a very different world. And by the way, that's true post-Trump. You know, there's some people think that Mr. Trump one day will not be in office, things will return to normal. Rosemary, they will never return to what we knew as normal. And there will be people after that. But at the end of the day, it's about us, our future. Set aside Mr. Trump, set aside Mr. Starmer, set aside Europe. What do we as Canadians want to build as an economy, as a society? How do we want to make our federal system work? You know, there's lessons in this too. We have not worked our federal system very effectively in the last, frankly, 20 years.
Yeah.
And the provinces and the feds did not meet on a regular basis because it wasn't viewed as being productive. And all of a sudden we have to relearn these things. So those are all things that we need to revisit. And I'm optimistic for the future. I think we are going to come out of this stronger. And I think the world would be wrong to underestimate who we are and what we can do. We're going to come out of this stronger, but we're going to have to stick together. We're going to have to do things together that we had not done before.
I think he kind of nails it, right? I think he kind of nails
Absolutely
it.
does. Absolutely does. In some news about Canadians who are making us proud, kits and cubs, currently at the moment, the World Fédération Internationale de Ski, Nordic World Ski Championships are taking place in Norway. And 2 Canadians, when it comes to women's ski jumping, did very well on the normal hill. They both tied for 5th place. So Alexandria Lautit, whose father you met, Mr. Grizzly, and Abigail Strait both finished in 5th place at the World Championships in ski jumping. And the person whose name I did not properly have the other day is Liliane Gagnon, who had picked up a 27th place in one event. Anything top 30 at the Worlds is good. And she followed that up with a 30th place in another event. So she is doing well. And yesterday, I believe it is, in the men's world, so the men's individual classic event in cross-country skiing, mention a name that we've mentioned before, Antoine Cyr, took the 18th place in that race, which is a very high achievement. And just to let you know, there were 109 competitors for the World Championship at the 10-kilometer classic cross-country. He finished 18th. That is ridiculously good. So, and also big shout out to Team Jacobs at the Briar, if you haven't been watching, but in their last 2 games have scored a total of 30 points. They won one match 20-2.
Just before we go, I thought it poignant, if you will, or a bit of a milestone that I thought I'd point out is that exactly 1 year ago today, a little doggy came into my life. Yeah, 1 year ago today. Trying to find the first picture I have of her with me. There we go. There we go. I'll post this on the screen. Just a second. I'm looking
really
terrible, but
my God.
Yeah, 1 year today. So the lovely Lola came into our lives. Yeah.
Look at that.
She was just trying to make herself at home and figured out she was much littler back then.
What
she
a
is
cutie.
You can count her ribs in that photo. She was very skinny. It wasn't that she was underfed. It's that she came from an environment that was anxiety.
She was so nervous.
Yeah. Yeah, she was stressed out, and now she has no stress in her life.
Yeah.
So yeah,
As
1 year
a
ago
good
today
doggo should.
since she entered our lives. So
Yes.
yeah, just
A
thought
good
I'd
stress-free
highlight
life.
that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Every
yeah,
dog
exactly.
should have
Well,
a good
she's
stress-free life.
asleep on the couch right now, so
Yeah. We don't deserve dogs.
no, we don't. We're not good enough.
Just-
All right, gotta go. See you later.
Bye, everyone.